It's funny, some games where you describe what the core gameplay is and it just sounds like, wait, what? And here it's mainly labeling plants, and it works. Strange Horticulture. This was one that I played on stream. This was gifted to me on Steam, which was quite lovely. I played this on Twitch, and I rather liked this. It's an interesting, very kind of melancholy take on what I would describe as kind of the cozy genre of games. So, like, I think the thing that I played prior to this that felt the most like it mechanically was what was it? It was potion something. Potion craft. That's what it was. I think that this has the most feel like that. I don't mean the mechanics are the same, but I mean in terms of tone and pacing. It has a pretty laid back feel to it. There is a story, and the story actually has pretty high stakes, but it's conveyed strictly through characters coming into your shop, the shop that you inherited with all these strange plants in it that are currently unlabeled. And you interact with these people, and they'll tell you about some bonkers stuff going on outside your shop. You're not going to see any of that. You'll have it described to you, but you'll just hear about it secondhand. What you do is hang out in your shop and try and figure out what the plants you have are. And there are some that like you have to figure out in order to move the story forward, because characters will come and ask for a specific thing. Sometimes they'll ask for something with a specific effect, but they won't know what it's called, so you got to figure that out. There's one pretentious character that asks for something by its Latin name, so you got to go through your encyclopedia of things, and instead of going by the actual names of the things, you have to look at the Latin names to try and find it. So there's those sorts of things, and there's just a few descriptors of each plant, and also like your sort of encyclopedia of plants grows as time goes on. You like, as a reward for any given, I'll call it a mission thing, but like any given puzzle that you solve, whether it's interacting with a character or you have figured out what a scrap of paper meant and gone somewhere on the map. I'll come back to the map in a second. And gone somewhere on the map and found something. Your rewards are generally either more plants to identify or more pages in your encyclopedia to help you identify the ones that you have. And there was something that happened very early on that helped clue me into the pace and energy of this thing. And I don't know if it was designed with the intention of having this impact on me, but it did, and it worked really well. And that's the map. Because the first time you open the map, it's missing one very standard thing that you kind of just get used to all video games having. A little marker saying you are here. You open up the map and you have to find where you are. Like, you know the town where you are. I think Undermere is what it's called. And you can find it on the map, but you have to find it. You don't just open it up and here's a little blinking thing like, here's where you are. Like, oh, no. Use the map. Go on, use the map. And that sort of gave me the hint like, okay, slow it down. Things are meant to take a more deliberate pace. And for the most part, it manages that balance really well. What can happen to me with what is ultimately, in terms of the way the thing progresses, feels oftentimes like kind of in the neighborhood of point and click adventure sorts of things. What can throw me off about the puzzles in those kinds of games is one of two things. Either the creators have a thought process that just isn't my thought process. I don't want to go so far as to say like the classic 90s Sierra game Moon Logic problem, but there will be times where like I'll get frustrated and look something up. And I'm not saying that happened with this game. I'm talking broadly right now. Where I'll get frustrated and look something up and see what it is and be like, how the hell was I supposed to think of that? Why would I ever think to do that? And I don't necessarily think that's inherently all the time bad puzzle design. Sometimes it is. But I think a lot of the time it's just my brain works in a different way than a lot of the designers of these things. What seems to make perfect sense to them to try is just something that would never have occurred to me to think of and bother with. So that's one problem I end up with. The other one that can really throw me off these games is if I know what I need to do, but the process of it is incredibly dragged out. So, like, the most infuriating kind of puzzle for me is the kind of like, oh, all right, well, here's this thing, and I know I need to do this, so I just need to get the information from here, but the process of getting it is this long, drawn out thing, even though I know where it is. Like, I've solved the puzzle, because in my mind, solving the puzzle is figuring out where you go for the information, but then actually getting it takes for frickin' ever. That'll drive me nuts. And this game did do that a couple of times. In fairness, it was towards the very end, especially the last puzzle you have to solve. It is doing that, and it is kind of the way that it makes it feel like, for lack of a better way to put it, a bit of a boss fight. I did just look up the solution to most of the parts of the last puzzle, not because I couldn't figure it out, but because I was looking at it and going, okay, I know what I would have to do to figure this out on my own, and it would involve combing through the entire encyclopedia and looking over every entry. And I've only got like 15 minutes left on my stream, and I don't have the patience for it. I am satisfied that I figured out what I need to do. I'm just going to look it up. But the thing is, I did that very rarely in this game. The vast majority of puzzles, I sorted on my own. And for me, with these kinds of games, that's kind of a big deal, to be completely honest. I can be real quick to jump to a walkthrough. And while I did it a couple times, by and large, most of this stuff I solved myself. And more to the point, I felt really good when I solved it. And at least for me and the kind of gamer that I am, most of the puzzles and most of the clues and the hints that you get, like early on, it's easy. But most of the stuff you're getting like through the mid-game stretch, it's just complicated enough to require me to put the thought work in where I feel rewarded for getting it right. But it's not so much that I feel like I'm floundering, can't figure out what to do, or have that, how was I ever supposed to think of that moment? It's, I don't know if this comparison is going to turn people off. In a way, I kind of liked algebra back in like middle school and high school. And part of the reason I liked it is because if you remembered a couple of basic things, then you could just work your way through a problem and figure it out. And that's kind of what this feels like. You do have to put a little bit of work in, and it's just enough to get to the end and be like, yeah, I'm good. When in reality, it's probably not that complicated, but it's just complicated enough to feel rewarding. And I liked that. The story it's interesting. I like the mood. It's kind of this dreary, rainy. It's not always raining technically, but it's raining for a lot of it, which also complements the very melancholic soundtrack that this has. But this sort of this dark Victorian story. There are people turning up dead. There's sort of a coven of, I don't call them witches, but there's like the sisters and there's some other stuff going on. And your filter through that is when people need various plants. And by and large, these plants are made up. They are things that do completely fantastical things, steal the mind against invasion, help you warm yourself, help you see in the dark. And then there's just more mundane things like this one's just pretty. So there's a nice variance there. And I also actually really like, and again, this fits the tone and the mood of the thing. You have to come up with your own sorting system for this. Again, I'm kind of used to other games where if there's something that you have to figure out, once you figure it out, game tells you where it goes and what to do with it. The thing is, and now this first thing I'm going to tell you can apparently change in the settings. I left it as is because it felt complementary to the tone and the feel. But like once you figured out what a plant is, and like the game knows you figured it out because like a character was asking for it and you gave them the correct thing, which means you now know it was definitely that. Unless you alter a setting in it, it doesn't automatically label it. You have to do it yourself. And that does just mean sticking a label on it and typing it out, which is very simple. But again, felt like it fit the slower paced, methodical tone of the thing. So I found myself doing it even though technically I didn't have to. And again, you got to come up with your own sorting system. What I ended up doing is you get labels in 3 different colors. I only ended up using 2. I used yellow for the things where I was positive what it was. Like 100% definitely it's confirmed, usually because I had to use it to solve something else. So like, and it worked. So I know it's that. Yellow labels on things where I know where it is. And I used purple labels for anything that I was pretty sure I knew what it was, but hadn't tested that yet. So like, I would have it labeled to be like somebody asked for it in a later thing and be like, oh, I think I've got that. And then I would see if I was right or not. And then I ultimately did end up going alphabetical with those two categories and then taking everything else and just sort of grouping it either by color or type. Like, here's all the mushrooms together. Here's all the dark blue flowers. Here's some yellow ones. I'll figure out what these are later. And then here's a shelf with my purple ones where I think I know what it is, and those are alphabetical. And then my big long shelf with all my yellow fully identified ones. That's how I chose to do it, but you can do it however you want. If you don't want to go alphabetical, you don't have to. If you want to organize them by effect, if you want to organize them by flower type visually, however you want to do it, you can do it. And that's the kind of thing that, again, in a game that wasn't as deliberately paced as this, I might get annoyed by. Be like, look, just do it optimally. Like, no, this fits the tone. And it's a tone I like. I enjoyed Strange Horticulture. Have you played it? What'd you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon pays the bills, enables me to do this as my living. Even if you can't help me out that way, like, share, subscribe. Don't worry too much about it, though. Take a relaxed attitude around here, so just come on back next time you need a break. And now to thank my highest supporting Patreon supporters: Robin Moore, Zubin Lutfula, Goddess Elida, Welsh Wrestling Geeks, Oliver B., Melissa Pedersen, Movie Turtle, Ulrich Bogdan, Melinda Walters, Auntie Kate 808, Andre, Becky Sparks, Claire Wright, Fernopulax the Poodle, Tracy Scrabbit, Angry Casperl, Dave Hall, Quite Bearish, Rosalind Bennett, Adam R.D.L. Taylor, Palbo Rabajagal, Mary Mello, Mira G, and Sir Didymus is my favorite. If you want to see me try and read your name while dealing with these little pains in my butt, check out the rewards on my Patreon and see if there's any that you like.